All right, everybody, a good Wednesday evening to you. We're going to try this again, and hopefully this goes a little bit better for us this time. I'm forecaster Nick Dunn here with you this evening to give you an update on our risk of severe weather for the day on Thursday. We've been talking about this for the last couple of days, and we're certainly going to be watching for the potential of some damaging winds, maybe even some isolated pockets of large hail, and even a few isolated tornadoes not out of the question for the day on Thursday. So I'll give everybody just a couple of seconds to tune in. Take two. Hopefully this is a little bit better for you this time. You're taking a look right now at kind of our open screen here. Again, hopefully you guys can share this around with your friends and family. Let us know where you're watching from tonight. Kind of a spring-like feel out there today. A lot of us getting into the 60s and even some 70s. A few of our northwestern counties were stuck in some cloud cover and cooler conditions, but overall, not a bad day whatsoever across the region. We're going to keep you posted on this risk of severe weather for Thursday. We're going to be tracking a warm front lifting north, set to bring us that risk of severe weather during the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. And again, hopefully the audio is a lot better, especially for those of you that are watching on Facebook. So if you can give me a thumbs up and just kind of let me know in the comment section how things are going, we're going to get things started here. So again, radar this evening, not too bad out there. I do want to show you some kind of an interesting look here. This is the temperature map, if you will. And you can kind of see where the warmer temperatures are, kind of situated pretty much south and east of US 24. So those of you across much of Ohio into West Virginia into a northwestern PA feeling rather spring-like out there this evening. And some of our friends to the north and northwest feeling a little bit cooler. And I'll zoom it out for you a little bit further so you can kind of look at our next weather maker. Again, we are tracking the potential for some pretty interesting weather over the next 24 hours, we'll say. We're watching a severe thunderstorm watch, even a severe thunderstorm warning down in Oklahoma. Some other general thunderstorms starting to develop now in Mississippi and Alabama and into south central Tennessee. And meanwhile, snow really starting to wind up across parts of the Central Plains, eastern Colorado into Kansas and southern Nebraska. If you're tracking and if you're heading towards Chicago, Des Moines, north of Kansas City, even several inches of snow are expected in these locations. In fact, some spots maybe even over a half a foot of snow. So we're going to be missing most of the wintry side, not all of it, but most of it. And we're going to be kind of focusing in on the stormy side of things. So that's kind of a look at where our next system is, where it's at, and it's going to be heading our way here in the next 24 hours. Let's zoom it in a little bit closer to home for you. I do want to show you the Storm Prediction Center outlook for tomorrow. So I've got that popped in here now. So those of you up in northwestern PA, a level 1 out of 5 risk for you. So Erie, Meadville down to Pittsburgh, kind of up and down the western or the northwestern portion of Pennsylvania, if you will. This morning we had a lot higher risk, and that has been trimmed back a little bit. And that is because the overall track of the system has been shunted a little further to the south, and we still have some uncertainty as to how far north some of these ingredients are going to come in and kind of how far north everything's going to kind of pan out. So it's going to be one of those watch and wait kind of days. We've already had one enhanced risk in January. If you recall, that one really didn't pan out the way that it could have. And we'll kind of maybe hope for the same thing tomorrow as well. So we do have a level 2 out of 5 risk for east central Ohio and the portions of the mid Ohio Valley through central Ohio, portions of the Miami Valley, and into southeastern Indiana. A level 1 of 5 risk also in effect for north central Ohio, northeastern Ohio, into West Virginia along the Ohio River, and some of our adjacent east central Indiana counties. So that's kind of a look at things. Again, the level 1 out of 5 is your darkest green. Level 2 out of 5 is the yellow. And then our level 3 out of 5, this is where the greatest risk of severe weather is for tomorrow. This is going to be down to the Cincinnati metro area. And again, depending on when you're watching this, the next update from the Storm Prediction Center comes out at 2 a.m. or roughly around that time period. So by the time you get up tomorrow morning, I guarantee this map is going to look at least a little bit different. Again, there's still some uncertainty as to how far north some of the ingredients may come. We have some question marks. Are we going to get any time to get any sunshine in here? Are we going to have enough instability? Those are my two main questions. We have plenty of wind shear to work with. Tomorrow there will be a good low-level jet right above our heads, especially during the afternoon and evening. So we will have the support for damaging winds to be transported down to the surface if any thunderstorms can tap into that energy. The question is, will we see those thunderstorms develop? The further south you live, especially south of I-70, I think we do have a pretty good chance of some thunderstorm activity. If you're north of I-70, a lot of uncertainty remains, and we're going to kind of dive into some of those model discrepancies and differences here, and I'll even compare a couple model runs for you, just so you can kind of see what things have kind of changed over the last 18 to 24 hours or so. Threats for tomorrow. Let's look at the tornado threat. This is a non-zero threat. It is not the main threat. I do want to kind of point that out. So our tornado risk for tomorrow looks something like this. The darkest green color, and I know that's kind of hard to see. Let me adjust that real quick here for you if I can. Well, maybe I can't do that. It's in here somewhere. Actually, there we go. I just want to adjust this this 2% color for you so it's a little bit easier on the eye so that you can kind of see where it is we're talking about. There we go. So that kind of a darker green color there, that is our 2% risk. This would be kind of correlates with a level 1 risk, if you will, of seeing an isolated tornado or two possible. So Columbus, Mansfield, Cleveland, New Philadelphia, Akron, Canton, Zanesville, Dayton, and Bellefontaine, just name a few locations. The area of most interest right now, and I'm going to show you why this is a 5% tornado risk for southwestern Ohio and far southeastern Indiana. That's notated there in the brown colors. So we're going to be watching that very closely here to kind of see how these different risk levels evolve and change. The risk of hail tomorrow, really not a factor. I really think hail is kind of the least of our concerns, if you will. But there is a 5% chance of isolated large hail over southwestern Ohio and southeastern Indiana. Do want to show you the wind risk as well. This is our primary risk. Damaging wind is our main concern for the day on Thursday. As you can see, most of the damaging wind, the further south you go, the higher the risk is. And it's not just our area that has this risk of severe weather tomorrow. If you're traveling down south into Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, level 3 out of 5 extends all the way down through places like Louisville, Nashville, Huntsville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, even down towards Jackson, Mississippi, and even all the way down towards not too far from New Orleans. So a very large risk area of seeing severe weather tomorrow. A very strong cold fronts can be coming through, and that is what is going to be responsible. For the next 12 hours, well, maybe a little less than that even, I'd say for the next 8 to 10 hours, you're in good shape. Most of us should stay dry during that time. It's once we get towards sunrise, a little bit after, I do expect we should see at least some showers moving through. Could see a few rumbles of thunder with some of this as well as we continue to kind of work on through. So that's a look at the overall Storm Prediction Center side. I do want to show you some model data. And I'm not going to get too technical on this side just because I know some folks are not really into some of the full geekiness side of things. I do want to kind of share some overall basic details with you. The high-resolution rapid refresh model, the hot off the press, the 0Z has been rendering, have been kind of letting it run for a little bit, and the good news is it's out far enough so we can kind of look over some details. So we're going to start off with temperatures because this is a big key for a couple of reasons. Number one, I mentioned we are going to miss most of the wintry side of this, but we do have a little bit of a risk of seeing some freezing rain in a few locations tomorrow evening, so I do want to talk about that as well. But going through tonight, temperatures staying relatively mild, most of us in the 40s, especially the further south you go. If you're across our north and northwest, you'll be kind of stuck in the upper 30s. As you get up tomorrow morning and get ready to go to school and work, mid-30s to around 50 in most locations across the region. So kind of a pick your season. If you live across the far south, you might get away with a light jacket. If you're up to the north, you might need a little bit of a heavier coat to start the day. We'll take you towards noontime, and now you start to see where that warm front's going to start to settle. The question is, how far north does that warm front go? If it goes far enough north, a lot more of us could see severe weather. If it doesn't make it as far north as some of these models are depicting, then the severe weather risk will kind of be shunted to our southern communities. So just something to keep an eye on. But by lunchtime, we're seeing upper 30s potentially in northwest Ohio, northeast Indiana, to around 60 along the Ohio River. And that temperature gradient alone is cause for concern. We could see a little bit of a bumpy ride tomorrow afternoon with some showers and some thunderstorms. Take you to mid-afternoon. We'll take you to 3 o'clock. Can you find the warm front? It is right there, stretching from about Muncie, Indiana, to north of Ashland, Ohio, to north of Youngstown, Ohio. You can clearly see the temperature difference. In Toledo, it's about 34 degrees, and that's why we are concerned that we could have a little bit of a wintry mess on our hands later tomorrow and early Friday across our northwest. I'll talk about that shortly. And even some low and mid 60s across our southern communities. And that's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. take you a little bit further in time, temperatures kind of max out here a little bit towards 4 and 5 o'clock. Again, that warm front, that is a very tight temperature gradient, and 25 miles either way could make a big difference as to whether or not you see severe weather or just a nasty cold rain. So that's a look at the temperature side of things. Let's go over to the precipitation depiction, and we're going to back this up a little bit here, okay? So we'll take you back tomorrow morning, 5, 6 o'clock. We're starting to get some showers and a few elevated thunderstorms working into southwest Ohio and southeastern Indiana. These should not be severe. They will be rather elevated. You may get some loud rumbles of thunder with this, so don't be surprised. If you're a night shifter and you're getting off work and you're trying to go to sleep early in the morning, you might struggle with that. For some of you, especially to our south, a wet morning commute certainly in the cards. 7 o'clock, same ordeal. Now it's moving towards Dayton, Columbus, Zanesville, right along that I-70 corridor. And so that's where we're going to have the wet start to the day. That moves off to the northeast. Again, a few rumbles of thunder are possible. I don't anticipate severe weather. Okay, so we get towards 10 and 11 o'clock and noon. You start to see some dry slotting here, and this would favor the potential of some afternoon development. However, we still have a lot of stratiform rain and a few rumbles of thunder across southeast Ohio into northwestern PA, down into West Virginia. So cause for concern there is if we don't get this to move out in enough time, and you could even see some residual development around the Miami Valley towards lunchtime. That may also kind of play a role. And then just to our north, central Michigan, seeing snow, moderate snow at times even, and you can see the rain-snow line kind of right near that Ohio, Indiana, Michigan triple, or that tri-state section right there. So again, 25 miles either way makes a big difference. Now, we get towards 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, not a ton of clearing here, and this concerns me for a couple of reasons. We have seen this happen so many times. We get rain in the morning, it doesn't clear out, and then the afternoon round of storms are not that significant. Based on this particular model, and again, this is just a simulation, but based on this, if this were to verify, I personally feel that our severe weather risk would be rather limited. We are still seeing numerous rain showers and thunderstorms south of the Ohio River, which may shunt some of that instability from being able to be pushed northward. Again, we're going to have to watch that very closely hour by hour. A few models are a little further north, and a couple models are a little further south. So it's kind of pick your poison, which model is going to be right. We're going to kind of wait and see how that pans out. But this is 2 p.m., so we're still seeing a good amount of rain across the region. And again, that rain-snow line, not too far to the north there in southern Michigan. So those of you in Toledo, Angola, Defiance, I would be watching this because, again, 25 miles either way could make a big difference. Let's take you to 4 o'clock now. You start to see that by mid-afternoon, some clearing is taking place, or at least some breaks in the precipitation, and this would maybe allow for a little bit of sunshine to break through. If we get any sunshine tomorrow, that is not going to be very favorable for storms to remain calm, if you will. That would allow for storm fuel to start to increase. Storms would start to intensify. And the other thing I want you to pay attention here, 4 o'clock, now look at the rain, snow, freezing rain line starting to eke its way into northwestern Ohio just a little bit here. So is it possible that by mid-afternoon tomorrow we could have thunderstorms and winter precipitation in the Buckeye State? Absolutely. Definitely a possibility. Don't rule it out. Now, the other thing here in terms of the stormy side, again, we're still seeing numerous rain showers across our southeastern counties, keeping instability limited. Meanwhile, some new storms have developed across, you can see there, the Miami Valley into southern Indiana, and we're going to have to watch this closely just to kind of see how this particular model pans out and if these trends were to continue. Again, now earlier today, this was a little further south, so we're starting to see this come back north again. So again, 25 miles either way makes a big difference. We'll take you to 5 and 6 o'clock. Now, you saw what happened there. Those storms looked a little bit more intense back across the Miami Valley, and as they start to work their way east, start to lose its punch just a little bit. That could be because we're not going to get enough time to destabilize and juice the atmosphere up for another round of thunderstorms. So if you wake up in the morning and it's raining, don't totally write off the risk of severe weather, but just know if you get up in the morning and it's raining, we get to lunchtime and it's still raining, that risk of severe weather could be rather limited during the afternoon and evening. However, if the opposite of that happens, we get to lunchtime and we got some sunshine, it's rather warm out there, might actually get something during the afternoon and evening in terms of severe weather. Also towards 6 o'clock, you're seeing some scattered wintry mixed showers across northern Indiana and northwestern Ohio. I don't anticipate any travel difficulties with this, but just something to kind of note that, you can go 50 miles in either direction and just kind of pick your season as to what kind of, if you want to see storms or just cold rain or maybe even some winter precipitation, within a 1 to 2 hour drive, you could have it all tomorrow. So just kind of keep that in mind. Would not be Ohio any other way, right? So we'll take you towards mid-evening. There's 7 and 8 o'clock, and we're still seeing some scattered thunderstorms. But again, I'm not overly impressed with this particular run. Now, we'll go to some of the parameters in a couple of minutes, but look at the freezing rain across northwest and even into northern Ohio along the lakeshore, back into north central Indiana. Again, that's going to be something we have to watch as well. I don't anticipate significant issues, but a light accumulation of ice by the end of the night tomorrow, certainly in the cards. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. Kind of a multifaceted system, if you will. So there's 8 o'clock, there's 9 and 10 o'clock, and we're still dealing with some scattered showers and thunderstorms, but this is just crazy to see. This particular model is depicting freezing rain in Cleveland at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and even some thunderstorms potentially into central and southeastern Ohio at the same time. So if you see that tomorrow on radar, you might want to take a screenshot of the reflectivity, because we don't see that type of return very often. It's very rare that we see this align like this, where one side of the state's getting winter, another side of the state's getting spring type, results with showers and storms on one side of the state and frozen precipitation on the other. Just something to kind of keep an eye on. We'll take you towards midnight, and for the most part, this really starts to wind down on the stormy side. Then we get some wraparound precipitation on the backside. And as we get up early Friday morning, some light snow showers are possible across the region, and even some light wintry mixed precipitation as well. That should not be overly long-lived. No real accumulation is expected unless you live maybe a little bit further off to the northeast. I think this model might be overdoing some of the snow shower activity across our far south and southeast late in the day on Friday, but don't be surprised if a few snowflakes are flying. So that's a look at how one model perceives tomorrow to potentially pan out. Again, that is just one model. I do want to show you a couple parameters, and one of those is the significant tornado parameter. And why do I show you this? Again, so sometimes I do like to kind of show you some different things. And the significant tornado parameter, it just means that we are looking at a parameter in the atmosphere based on the returns and based on the photographs. Do we have the potential for rotating thunderstorms tomorrow? Now, as we get towards 4 and 5 o'clock, anytime we see a value of 1 or even 2, we start to grow some concern for the potential of rotating thunderstorms to develop. And based on what I'm seeing here, this is the 4 to 5 o'clock time frame, end of the day, some low-end tornado potential exists. And then we get towards 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10, and then the threat should start to die down gradually as we head towards mid to late evening. So, again, I will say, I don't know if I can go back far enough in time. I cannot, I don't think. Let me see. I cannot. So I will say this run last night at 0Z was a lot more robust with that tornado threat across much of the Buckeye State. And I did not really want to go too much into detail last night with that because I had some feelings that the shift to the south would continue. That happened today. Now we'll see how things trend over the next 12 hours to see if this shifts back north. But the other thing tomorrow is CAPE. Instability. We need storm fuel and we need some sunshine in order to make that happen. And I will say that the models, at least across the Buckeye State, this is going to be one of those high shear, low instability type of environments. And I'll show you the shear numbers in just a few moments. But instability, I would personally like to see anything above a 500 start to pop up during this time of the year for instability to kind of show that we have a legitimate risk of severe weather. I'm not really seeing that. Really north of 70 is struggling to get any kind of instability. South of 70, it's kind of a limited risk. And once it gets past midnight, that risk starts to die down pretty quickly. So southern Indiana, Kentucky, yeah, we are definitely seeing some instability numbers that, start to validate. And the other thing, too, is timing with this. If this tries to develop at, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, we're kind of losing out potentially or for a lot of us. Now, if this develops a little bit earlier into the day, we have a little bit more time for things to develop and work through. Might be able to get a little bit better instability, a little bit better outcome. I spoke about wind shear, and this is something that we're going to have to watch very closely. Now, understand that this is looking from 0 to 6 kilometers, and all of these darker reds that you see up here to the north and northwest, kind of ignore that. Obviously, we have a lot of wind shear to work with across the entire atmosphere, but I want you to kind of focus. I know it's kind of hard to tell you, but where these colors kind of get broken up a little bit. So as we kind of work through the afternoon and evening, you start to see some pockets of wind shear kind of breaking off here and kind of coming together at the same time. And with that said, that kind of tells me that we do have enough wind shear in the atmosphere for storms to rotate. And that does concern me just a little bit. I don't expect a tornado outbreak by any means. Definitely not saying that, but a few tornadoes, not out of the question. Let's go over to the, oh, that's not out far enough. I do want to show you, let's see if I can get it to pop up here a little bit for me. All right, so let's look at the winds tomorrow at 850 millibars. I mentioned we were going to have a pretty good low-level jet overhead. And so these darker reds that you see, these are winds that are just a few thousand feet above our heads that are in the 50 to 60 knot range, so about 55 to 65 miles per hour, maybe a touch higher than that. And you can see across much of Ohio, we have some pretty good winds just above our heads tomorrow. So if these storms can tap into that energy, all I'm trying to tell you is damaging winds going to be the primary concern. And those winds stay relatively strong even through the early evening hours as well. So any storms that tap into this wind energy, damaging winds the primary concern. A couple parameters out there do show me that we do have a risk of at least an isolated tornado or two. But again, right now I'm not overly impressed with tomorrow's potential. Now again, we have to kind of wake up in the morning and see how things evolve. But don't let your guard down. I want you to have multiple ways to receive weather alerts. I'll take you back to the risk of severe weather for tomorrow. And by the way, I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there, and I'll get to those as best as I can, especially once this video has ended. I'll kind of go back and answer some of those for you. But this is kind of the overall breakdown tomorrow for severe weather. Okay, so that area in dark green, that's a level 1 out of 5 risk. An isolated severe thunderstorm is possible. Not talking anything, necessarily significant. You may see just 1 or 2 warnings in those areas. You get into the yellow, that's a level 2 out of 5 risk of seeing severe weather. So we start to look at scattered severe thunderstorm development being possible. 1 or 2 storms could also maybe even be briefly intense. Then into the orange area, then we start to talk about the potential for numerous severe thunderstorms, a little bit more widespread coverage, a little bit more stronger, and they tend to last a little bit longer as well. So we've posted these maps on our Facebook pages, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at those. I don't have time to go through every single county and tell you every single person what threat you're in. This map is here. Feel free to screenshot it. Send me a question if you have any questions. You could also just shoot us a message on Facebook, or you can comment here. We'll try to answer those the best we can. But really important to know where you're at on the map and understand if you're in a risk or not and what you need to do to be prepared for that. So that's kind of where things are at for this evening. I'm going to wrap things up for now. I hope that you are going to be having a good rest of your evening. Timing tomorrow on this, kind of from west to east. If you are west of I-75, we are kind of looking before 7 o'clock. It would kind of be my initial thoughts. Again, with these continued model discrepancies, I don't want to be so specific. Kind of give you a broad window. So our western Indiana counties all the way to the Ohio-Pennsylvania border and even into northwestern PA, just kind of a broad timing, 3 p.m. to midnight. We're just going to leave it at that broad window for now. Obviously, the earlier, if you're 3, 4, 5 o'clock towards the west, and the further east you are, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, even towards midnight. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'll try to do something a little bit more specific with timing once I get up in the morning and kind of analyze how things are looking. So with that said, at this particular point in time, I'm going to wrap things up for now. I'll go back through and answer some more of your questions on Facebook, and if you want to shoot us a message, I'll do my best to answer those as well. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Stay safe out there, and remember, when thunder roars, be sure you go indoors.